The first plasma bolt struck New Shanghai's outer colony at 3:47 hours, ship standard time. The settlement, a carefully constructed haven of humanity's expansion into the Centauri Reach, disappeared in a white-hot explosion that vaporized residential complexes, agricultural domes, and the hopes of thousands of colonists in less than 3 seconds. Commander Elena Rodriguez watched the destruction through the fractured viewscreen of the orbital defense platform, her augmented left eye running diagnostic overlays that transformed the horrific scene into a clinical data stream. Numbers scrolled past. Population count, structural integrity, thermal bloom, radiation dispersal. Each statistic was another nail in a coffin that the Zorn believed they were constructing for humanity. They were wrong. In the command center, the initial shock lasted precisely 47 seconds. That was how long it took for the first wave of human response to activate. Communications officer Marcus Chen's fingers were already dancing across quantum encryption channels, routing emergency signals through a network so complex that most alien species would need decades to comprehend its structure. Multiple colony sectors destroyed, Marcus reported, his voice steady despite the carnage. Preliminary casualty estimates: 63,742 confirmed deaths. Rescue protocols are initializing. Elena's cybernetic implant connected directly to the colony's fragmented communication systems. Amid the chaos, she could hear individual stories, last messages, desperate calls, moments of incredible human resilience. A medical team continuing emergency procedures despite total system failure. A group of colonists manually overriding sealed habitat doors to save trapped civilians. The Zorn Collective had made a fundamental miscalculation about humanity. They saw a species they believed was fractured, territorial, prone to internal conflict. What they didn't understand was that external threat was the most powerful unifying force in human history. Across Earth and its colonies, the attack triggered a response that had been centuries in preparation. Dormant defense protocols came online. Research facilities that appeared to be studying peaceful technologies suddenly revealed their true purpose. Universities that seemed focused on theoretical science transformed into war research centers within minutes. On the lunar research base, Dr. Akira Nakamura looked up from a quantum entanglement experiment and smiled. A thin, predatory smile that would have terrified the Zorn had they seen it. "They've activated the trigger," he said quietly to his team. No further explanation was needed. Global communication networks, which had seemed inefficient and chaotic to outside observers, now revealed their true nature. What appeared to be competing systems were actually a massively distributed, self-healing intelligence network. Within moments of the attack, every human system began to coordinate with a precision that defied traditional understanding of communication and cooperation. Military leaders who had spent decades in political gridlock now moved with surgical precision. Budgets were redirected. Priorities realigned. A global mobilization began that made historical military movements look like children's playground exercises. Elena's communication implant buzzed. It was a direct quantum-encrypted channel from Earth's Unified Defense Command. The message was simple and devastating in its clarity. OBDGCTIE. Total retribution. Priority. Absolute. QOLATERAL damage. IRRELV. The Zorn had not just attacked a colony. They had awoken something far more dangerous than they could comprehend. They had unified humanity with a single crystal-clear purpose, and they would soon learn the true meaning of pursuit. In the cold darkness of space, the first human response ships began to move, not in panic, not in fear, but with a calculated, relentless precision that would become humanity's most terrifying characteristic. The United Nations emergency session lasted exactly 17 minutes. It was the shortest global conference in human history and the most consequential. Dr. Aisha Okeke, the Nigerian representative and leading quantum systems theorist, stood at the holographic podium. Her presentation was a clinical dissection of the Zorn attack, complete with real-time data streams, predictive models, and potential response strategies. Behind her, interactive displays showed the full extent of the destruction, each red marker representing a human settlement reduced to ash. "We are not dealing with a traditional military conflict," she declared, her voice cutting through the initial shock. "This is an extinction-level threat that requires a complete reimagining of human potential." The global draft was implemented within hours, but this was no conventional conscription. Advanced AI systems cross-referenced global databases, identifying individuals not just by physical capability, but by their unique skill sets. Theoretical physicists became weapons designers. Retired engineers were recalled to develop adaptive technologies. Even children's educational systems were rapidly converted into specialized training programs. In the subterranean research complex beneath the Atacama Desert, Dr. Nakamura's team worked with a feverish intensity that bordered on the supernatural. They were developing something far beyond conventional weapons, a quantum communication network that could track enemy movements across multiple dimensional planes. "The Zorn believe they understand warfare," Nakamura muttered, examining quantum entanglement simulations. "They understand nothing." Global resources were redirected with unprecedented speed. Cryptocurrency markets were frozen and converted into a unified human defense fund. Space exploration budgets, previously competing and fragmented, merged into a single, massive research initiative. Private technology companies that had once been bitter rivals now shared research in real time, their competitive instincts replaced by a singular purpose. Military academies worldwide began rewriting tactical doctrines. The old models of warfare, based on historical human conflicts, were discarded. Instead, they studied the Zorn's attack with a clinical, almost predatory focus. Every weakness would be identified. Every potential counter-strategy would be developed. In orbital research stations, genetic modification programs that had been kept under strict regulation were suddenly given carte blanche. Researchers began developing human physiological and cybernetic enhancements that pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible. Adaptive biological systems that could survive in extreme environments. Neural interfaces that could process information faster than any known biological or artificial intelligence. The global communication network, previously seen as a chaotic system of competing platforms, revealed its true nature. What appeared to be inefficient became a massively distributed, self-healing intelligence network. Every human system began to coordinate with a precision that defied traditional understanding of cooperation. Commander Elena Rodriguez received her first comprehensive briefing 2 days after the attack. The strategy was both simple and terrifying in its scope. Humanity would not just defend. They would pursue. "We are transitioning from a defensive species to a hunting species," her briefing document read. The language was clinical, but the implications were profound. Universities were the first to show the transformation. Research labs that had been studying theoretical quantum mechanics suddenly revealed weaponized applications. Departments of theoretical biology began developing adaptive human augmentation technologies. Even art and design schools were recruited to develop psychological warfare strategies and adaptive camouflage technologies. The Zorn had attacked hoping to find a fractured, vulnerable species. Instead, they had done the impossible. They had unified humanity with a crystal-clear purpose. And they would soon learn the true meaning of human determination. In research facilities, military bases, and improvised command centers around the globe, a single sentiment began to take hold. Not fear, not revenge. Pursuit. The first truly adaptive human weapon didn't look like a weapon at all. It was a quantum processor developed by Dr. Yuki Martinez in a converted research facility that used to be a suburban shopping mall in Phoenix, Arizona. Captain Marcus Chen watched the demonstration, his augmented neural interface receiving data streams that would have overwhelmed an unmodified human brain. The processor was alive, quite literally. Biological neural networks intertwined with quantum computing systems, creating something that existed between technology and organism. It learns, Dr. Martinez explained, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Not just in a programmed sense, it evolves. The Zorn's next attack came 3 weeks after New Shanghai. They targeted the Mars colony, believing they had identified a vulnerable human settlement. What they encountered was nothing like their previous engagement. The human defensive line wasn't a line at all. It was a living, breathing ecosystem of adaptive technology. Ships that could reconfigure mid-battle, weapons that learned and mutated faster than the Zorn could develop countermeasures, soldiers who were more machine than human, yet retained a level of creativity that no purely mechanical system could replicate. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez, no relation to Commander Elena Rodriguez, led a special operations team that had been modified beyond traditional human limitations. Her team could communicate through quantum entanglement, their thoughts moving faster than light. Biological enhancements allowed them to survive in vacuum, to heal from wounds that would kill any other species, to process information at speeds that made the Zorn's most advanced AI look like primitive calculators. The battle lasted 47 minutes. The Zorn lost 73% of their attacking force. They didn't just lose ships. They lost the very concept of strategic advantage. In the command center, Dr. Akira Nakamura watched the battle data with a clinical detachment that masked a deeper emotion. Humanity wasn't just fighting. They were solving the fundamental problem of warfare in real time. Each engagement is a learning opportunity, he muttered to his team. The quantum communication network they had developed did more than track enemy movements. It predicted them. It understood them. The Zorn had made a critical mistake. They had attacked a species on the verge of a technological singularity, a moment where technological growth becomes exponential and uncontrollable. Captured Zorn communication logs revealed their growing terror. Human technology didn't just adapt. It anticipated. Where Zorn ships would move, human weapons were already waiting. What Zorn communication systems tried to encrypt, human processors were already decrypting. Dr. Martinez's quantum processors became the backbone of a new kind of warfare. They could simulate millions of potential engagement scenarios in microseconds. They could predict enemy movements with such precision that battles were won before they even began. The human response went beyond military technology. Economic systems were weaponized. Communication networks became instruments of psychological warfare. Every human system, from global supply chains to educational platforms, was now part of a massive, distributed intelligence network. "We are not developing technology," a captured Zorn scientist said during interrogation, his translator revealing a mix of terror and grudging respect. "You are evolving faster than we can comprehend." The Mars colony became a symbol, not of human resilience, but of human transformation. What had once been a fragile outpost was now a fortress that could reconfigure itself faster than an enemy could scan its defenses. Commander Elena Rodriguez received the battle report. Her cybernetic eye processed the data in milliseconds, revealing not just the victory, but the underlying pattern. Humanity was no longer fighting a defensive war. They were hunting. And the Zorn were about to learn the true meaning of being prey. The most dangerous weapon in human arsenal wasn't a gun, a ship, or a quantum processor. It was understanding. Dr. Elena Volkov, head of the Psychological Warfare Division, stood before a holographic display that looked more like an artist's canvas than a military strategy room. Complex neural maps, communication patterns, and psychological profiles of the Zorn collective filled the space. A living, breathing diagram of an alien civilization's collective psyche. Warfare is no longer about destroying bodies, she explained to her team of linguists, psychologists, data analysts, and neural network specialists. It's about destroying belief systems. The team had spent months dissecting every intercepted Zorn communication, not just translating language, but understanding the fundamental cognitive patterns that drove their civilization. The Zorn were a hierarchical species, driven by a complex system of merit and collective decision-making. Their strength was also their greatest weakness. Their first psychological strike was subtle, almost invisible. Using quantum communication networks, human operatives began introducing microscopic inconsistencies into Zorn communication channels. A slightly altered transmission here, a carefully crafted piece of misinformation there. Each intervention was so precise that it would be imperceptible to casual observation, but devastating to a species that relied on absolute communication integrity. Commander Marcus Chen watched as the first signs of breakdown emerged. Zorn military units began to question orders. Command structures started to fracture. The collective's legendary unity began to show hairline fractures. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez led a special psychological operations team that was less a military unit and more a weaponized intelligence organism. Her team could generate communication patterns so perfectly alien, yet so subtly wrong, that Zorn communication networks began to treat their own transmissions with suspicion. Holographic technologies transformed human capabilities. A single human ship could now appear as an entire fleet, attacking from impossible angles. Quantum entanglement communication allowed them to be everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. The Zorn's advanced sensor technologies became a liability. Each scan revealed impossible, contradictory information. Dr. Volkov's team had discovered something profound about the Zorn. Their collective intelligence, which they believed was their greatest strength, was actually their most significant vulnerability. By introducing subtle cognitive dissonance, they could make the entire Zorn communication network question its own existence. "We're not just fighting," Dr. Volkov explained during a classified briefing. "We're creating a mimetic virus that attacks their fundamental understanding of reality." Captured Zorn communication logs revealed the growing terror. Military units began to refuse orders. Command structures disintegrated. The once unified collective started to fragment, with different units interpreting the same transmission in wildly different ways. The psychological warfare went deeper. Human operatives began introducing cultural elements into Zorn communication networks. Music that triggered unexpected emotional responses. Mathematical sequences that created cognitive loops. Information packets designed to exploit the specific neural architecture of the Zorn brain. A single transmission could now do more damage than an entire fleet of ships. Commander Elena Rodriguez received the psychological warfare reports. Her augmented eye processed layers of information that would drive an unmodified human mind to madness. Each report was not just a military document. It was a work of art, a precise, devastating deconstruction of an alien civilization's collective consciousness. The Zorn had believed they were hunting a primitive species. Instead, they had provoked a civilization that could weaponize understanding itself. And they were about to learn the true terror of being truly seen. The research facility beneath the Atacama Desert looked like nothing special from the surface. A collection of low, unassuming buildings surrounded by the world's most inhospitable desert. What lay beneath was humanity's most ambitious project since the first moon landing. Dr. Akira Nakamura pressed his hand against the quantum resonance chamber, feeling the vibrations of possibility that most humans couldn't perceive. The chamber was more than a machine. It was a bridge between what was and what could be. "We're not just developing technology," he muttered to his lead researcher, Dr. Maya Chen. "We're midwifing human evolution." The technological leap happened almost overnight, but like most revolutionary changes, it was the result of decades of hidden preparation. Every seemingly mundane research project, every theoretical paper, every weird experiment that had been dismissed by conventional scientific communities, they were all puzzle pieces now falling into place. Quantum computing merged with biological neural networks in ways that defied previous understanding. Cybernetic enhancements were no longer about replacing human limitations, but expanding human potential. A new generation of soldiers emerged, not as replaceable units, but as living, thinking weapon systems that could adapt faster than any traditional military could comprehend. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez underwent the most advanced human modification program in history. Her body was no longer purely biological or mechanical. She existed in a state of constant quantum flux. Her neural network could process information at speeds that made previous artificial intelligence, look like primitive calculators. She could communicate through quantum entanglement, her thoughts moving faster than light itself. In orbital research stations, genetic modification programs pushed the boundaries of human potential. Researchers developed physiological adaptations that allowed humans to survive in environments that would kill any other known species: radiation resistance, vacuum survival, metabolic systems that could extract nutrition from materials previously considered uninhabitable. The first truly adaptive ships emerged from hidden shipyards. These were not vehicles in any traditional sense. They were living systems that could reconfigure themselves mid-battle, anticipate enemy movements, and evolve tactical responses in microseconds. A single human ship could now match entire alien fleets, not through brute force, but through unprecedented adaptability. Dr. Maya Chen's quantum communication network became the nervous system of this new human capability. It was more than a communication system. It was a distributed intelligence that could process global, and now interstellar, information faster than any centralized system could comprehend. A captured Zorn scientist, during an extended interrogation, made a chilling observation that would be quoted throughout human military academies. "You are not developing technology. You are evolving faster than we can comprehend." The technological singularity wasn't a theoretical concept anymore. It was happening in real time. Commander Elena Rodriguez received the latest modification reports. Her augmented eye processed layers of information that would drive an unmodified human mind to madness. Each report was a testament to human potential, a precise, devastating demonstration of a species that refused to accept its limitations. The modifications went beyond military applications. Educational systems were transformed. Children were now born with neural interfaces that allowed direct knowledge integration. Learning became a process of exploration rather than memorization. Creativity became a quantifiable and expandable resource. In the subterranean research complex, Dr. Nakamura looked at the quantum resonance chamber and saw something most would miss. This wasn't just technological development. This was human potential being unleashed. The Zorn had attacked hoping to find a primitive species. Instead, they had triggered humanity's most profound transformation. And they were about to learn the true meaning of evolution. The Battle of Proxima Centauri was never supposed to happen the way it did. Tactical projections showed a human fleet of 47 ships facing a Zorn armada of 392 vessels. The mathematical models predicted total human annihilation. The Zorn command believed this would be the engagement that would break humanity's will to resist. They were wrong. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez sat in the quantum adaptive command chair of the U.S. Defiance, her neural interface merging with the ship's systems. She wasn't piloting the vessel so much as becoming it. Her consciousness spread through quantum communication networks, transforming the single ship into a distributed intelligence that could exist simultaneously in multiple tactical configurations. "Incoming fleet," her neural interface reported. The words were insufficient. What she experienced was a complete dimensional mapping of the approaching Zorn armada. Every potential movement, every possible tactical configuration, predicted and countered before the enemy could even conceive of the maneuver. The first wave of Zorn ships approached with their traditional overwhelming force strategy. Energy weapons that could vaporize planetary surfaces. Quantum disruption cannons that could tear apart molecular structures. They expected submission. They expected terror. They found something else entirely. The human fleet didn't just defend. They danced. Each human ship moved with a fluidity that defied traditional understanding of space combat. They weren't just avoiding attacks. They were actively manipulating the battlefield. Quantum entanglement communication allowed instantaneous coordination that made the Zorn fleet look like children playing with outdated toys. Dr. Elena Volkov's psychological warfare protocols activated simultaneously. The human ships began broadcasting carefully constructed communication patterns that created cascading cognitive dissonance in the Zorn tactical networks. Each transmission was a precision instrument designed to create maximum psychological disruption. Zorn ships began to hesitate. Their legendary collective intelligence started to fragment. Commander Marcus Chen watched from the orbital command station, his augmented systems processing the battle in dimensions the Zorn couldn't comprehend. This wasn't just a military engagement. It was a comprehensive demonstration of human potential. The turning point came 17 minutes into the battle. A single human ship, the U.S. Defiance, began to transform. It wasn't a mechanical reconfiguration. It was a quantum-level adaptation that rewrote the fundamental rules of space combat. The vessel split into multiple quantum-entangled versions of itself, each capable of independent action, yet perfectly synchronized. One Zorn commander's final transmission became a legendary warning throughout the galaxy. They are everywhere and nowhere. How is this possible? When the battle ended, 392 Zorn ships had been reduced to scattered debris. The human fleet lost 3 vessels. The recordings of the Battle of Proxima Centauri spread through alien communication networks like a mimetic virus. Other species watched in horrified fascination. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was rewriting the fundamental understanding of warfare, of technology, of potential. Dr. Akira Nakamura reviewed the battle data in his research facility. To the untrained eye, it looked like a military engagement. To him, it was something more profound, a demonstration of a species in the midst of its most radical transformation. "We are not just fighting," he said quietly to his team. "We are evolving." The Zorn had attacked hoping to find a vulnerable species. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous. A species that refused to be limited by any definition of possibility. Pursuit was no longer just a military strategy. It had become humanity's defining characteristic. The Zorn Collective's infrastructure began to crumble not through direct military action, but through a comprehensive dismantling that was both surgical and psychological. Commander Elena Rodriguez oversaw an operation that was less a war and more a calculated deconstruction of an entire civilization. Economic systems were the first to fall. Human intelligence networks, a combination of quantum computing, predictive algorithms, and weaponized economic strategies, began to isolate and collapse Zorn trade routes. Each economic node was precisely targeted, creating cascading failures that spread faster than the Zorn could respond. Dr. Maya Chen's team had developed something beyond traditional economic warfare. Their algorithms could predict and manipulate economic systems with such precision that entire Zorn sectors would collapse before they even realized what was happening. Trade routes would mysteriously become unprofitable. Resource extraction would suddenly become impossible. Communication networks would develop inexplicable vulnerabilities. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez led special operations teams that were less military units and more living intelligence systems. They didn't just infiltrate Zorn territories, they became them. Advanced biological and quantum modifications allowed human operatives to integrate into Zorn systems at a fundamental level, becoming undetectable agents of systematic destruction. The pursuit went beyond military or economic targets. Political infrastructures began to fragment. Carefully crafted communication patterns introduced doubt into the Zorn Collective's leadership. Every transmission, every decision became a potential point of cognitive vulnerability. The once unified alien civilization started to question its own foundations. Dr. Elena Volkov's Psychological Warfare Division worked with a precision that bordered on the supernatural. They didn't just attack the Zorn's communication systems, they attacked their fundamental understanding of reality. Transmission patterns were designed to create microscopic cognitive dissonances that would spread like a mimetic virus through the entire Zorn civilization. Zorn ships began to surrender without engagement. The mere approach of human vessels was enough to trigger complete organizational collapse. Commander Marcus Chen tracked the systematic dismantling from the orbital command station. Each report was a testament to human strategic capability. This wasn't just warfare. It was a comprehensive deconstruction of an entire civilization's potential. The pursuit became multidimensional. Human operatives didn't just attack physical infrastructure. They attacked the very concept of the Zorn Collective's existence. Research facilities were compromised. Communication networks were turned into instruments of psychological manipulation. Every Zorn system became a potential point of vulnerability. Advanced quantum communication networks allowed human intelligence to exist simultaneously across multiple Zorn territories. A single human operative could now be everywhere and nowhere, manipulating systems at a fundamental level that the Zorn couldn't comprehend. Dr. Akira Nakamura watched the systematic dismantling with a clinical detachment that masked a deeper understanding. Humanity was solving the fundamental problem of conflict, not through brute force, but through a comprehensive understanding of systemic vulnerabilities. The Zorn had made a fatal mistake. They had attacked a species that understood pursuit not as a military strategy, but as a fundamental characteristic of existence. Each human action was calculated. Each movement was a precise instrument of systematic deconstruction. The Zorn Collective wasn't just being defeated. It was being taken apart, layer by layer, with a precision that bordered on the surgical. In the vast darkness of space, human ships moved with a purpose that went beyond traditional military engagement. They were hunters. They were architects of civilization-level transformation. And they were just getting started. The pursuit would continue. Not out of revenge, not out of hatred, but out of a fundamental human characteristic, the relentless drive to understand, to adapt, to overcome. The final transmission from the Zorn Collective was not a declaration of defeat. It was a warning. Broadcast across multiple communication frequencies, intercepted by countless alien civilizations, the message became more than just a communication. It became a galactic legend. Beware the humans. The transmission began, translated through multiple quantum communication filters. The voice was a complex algorithmic construct, the collective consciousness of what remained of the Zorn leadership. They do not forget. They do not forgive. They will pursue you beyond reason, beyond logic, beyond the boundaries of known space. Commander Elena Rodriguez listened to the transmission from the command center of the U.S. Defiance. Her augmented eye processed layers of information that would drive an unmodified human mind to madness. This wasn't just a message of defeat. It was a profound recognition of something far deeper. Dr. Akira Nakamura understood the transmission's true significance. It was more than a warning. It was a testament to human potential. The conflict hadn't just been about survival. It had been a comprehensive transformation of what it meant to be a spacefaring civilization. Other alien species watched in horrified fascination. The records of the human-Zorn conflict spread through communication networks like a mimetic virus. Each transmission revealed something profound about humanity, a species that refused to be defined by existing limitations. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez represented the new human archetype. No longer purely biological or mechanical, she existed in a state of constant quantum adaptation. Her neural network could process information at speeds that made previous technological understanding look primitive. She was living proof of humanity's evolutionary leap. The pursuit had never been about revenge. It had been about understanding. Dr. Elena Volkov's Psychological Warfare Division had discovered something far more important than military victory. They had mapped the fundamental cognitive patterns of an entire alien civilization. Each interaction, each communication, had been a learning opportunity that transformed human understanding of intelligence itself. Commander Marcus Chen tracked the final stages of the conflict from the orbital command station. The human fleet wasn't just a military force. It was a distributed intelligence system that could exist simultaneously across multiple dimensional planes. The Zorn Collective's complete submission was almost anticlimactic. They didn't surrender in any traditional sense. They simply ceased to exist as a coherent civilization. Some worlds were integrated. Some were isolated. Some were left as living museums of a civilization that had made the fatal mistake of underestimating humanity. Captured Zorn research facilities revealed the depth of human transformation. Technologies that had seemed impossible became foundational. Quantum communication networks, adaptive biological systems, cognitive modification techniques that blurred the line between intelligence and existence. Dr. Maya Chen's research teams were already integrating the most valuable Zorn technologies, not as conquerors, but as students of a universe filled with infinite possibility. The galactic communication networks began to change. Humanity was no longer seen as a potential conquest. They were recognized as something far more dangerous and far more fascinating, a species in constant evolution. We are not just a civilization. Dr. Nakamura would later write in his defining work on the conflict, "We are a process of continuous transformation." The final transmission continued to echo through alien communication networks. A warning, a recognition, a profound statement of human potential. They will pursue you, not out of hatred, not out of revenge, but out of an unquenchable desire to understand, to adapt, to become. In the vast darkness of space, human ships moved with a purpose that went beyond traditional exploration or conquest. They were hunters of knowledge. They were architects of possibility. They were human.